Combat operations on the territory of Ukraine continue. Russians continues its offensive with the aim of occupying more territories of Ukraine. However, significant successes are not achieved. The footage shows destroyed Russian equipment filmed by a Russian occupier. The quality is of course not a Hollywood, but this is not a movie. Hey, my name is Alex, and this is a quick update on the Russian-Ukrainian war from the perspective of someone living within it. And here is statistics of losses on both sides for May 23rd and 24th. In red, losses of the Russian armed forces. In blue, losses of the Ukrainian armed forces. May 23rd, losses of the Russian army, 62 units. Losses of Ukraine, 36 units. The loss ratio is about 1 to 2 in favor of Ukraine. May 24th, losses of the Russian army, 87 units. Losses of Ukraine, 28 units. The loss ratio on this day is about 1 to 3 in favor of Ukraine again. Let's move on to the review of the situation at the front. Changes over the last 2 days. Kharkiv section of the front. Positional combat operations continue in the Lipsy direction. The situation remains unchanged. In the Volchansk direction, a high pace of combat operations continues in the Staritsa village, and shooting battles continue in the northern part of Volchansk. The situation remains without significant changes. Soldiers from the Falcon Squad of the 57th Mechanized Brigade share a report on the work done to dispose of the personnel of the Russian army in the Volchansk area. Overall, the situation in the Kharkiv direction is more or less stable, except for Volchansk. The Russian army is trying to press the city and take it, destroying it completely like any city they assault. In reality, this thin and relative stability in Volchansk is achieved with considerable effort of our part, and everything can change sharply, both for better or worse. Meanwhile, Bloomberg reports that the Ukrainian armed forces wants to launch a powerful counterattack to push back the occupiers who have seized territory in the northern part of the Kharkiv region. I'm not sure how reliable this information is, but a counterattack by Ukrainian defense forces, while the Russians have not yet strongly secured the captured territories, seems logical. The question is whether there are enough resources. Work is constantly being done to reduce the potential of the Russian army in the neighboring territories of the Belgorod region, Russian Federation. Drone operators of the Peruvian unit of the 42nd Motorized Brigade worked on the positions and equipment of the Russian troops in the village of Murom, Belgorod region, Russia. Here is this village on the map. In the Sumy region, Ukraine, which borders Kharkiv region, where there is high probability of another front opening by the Russian army, there is report of the Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group surrendering. On the Svatov section of the front, a high pace of combat operations continues in the area of Klishchiivka and Berestove. The Ukrainian armed forces struck an enemy positions and field ammunition depot in the eastern part of Berestove. Enemy infantry advanced along Central Street up to 550 meters. Liman direction. This direction looks stable and relatively calm. Russians write in their chats that the Ukrainians recaptured several positions east of Yampolivka. They say that Ukrainian army has a significant advantage in drones here. But in reality, artillery has also been working quite effectively in this direction lately. Sieversk direction. In the Seversk direction, Russian troops continue to try to improve their tactical positions east and southeast of Bilohorivka. In the direction of Vyimka and Ivano-Dayrivka, the situation remains without significant changes. While the Russians invent stories of capturing Bilohorivka, soldiers of the 81st Separate Air Mobile Brigade share episodes of the destruction of Russian equipment and infantry in the area, debunking Russian media lies. Chasiv Yar section. In the Chasiv Yar direction, a high pace of combat operations continues on the eastern outskirts of Chasiv Yar, Chasiv Yar Canal microdistrict. The footage shows Russian heavy flamethrower system or guided bomb strikes on high-rise buildings deep within the development. And in this footage, episodes of repelling another wave of Russian assaults on the outskirts of Chasiv Yar. Fighters from the United Assault Brigade of the National Police of Ukraine, LUD, and adjacent units are working. Despite the significant forces that Russia has been applying in this direction in recent days, no significant successes are reported. A Ukrainian tank crew under heavy Russian fire returns from a successfully completed combat mission on the outskirts of Chasiv Yar city. Despite the damage, the mission was accomplished and the tank crew is safe. Video from the soldiers of the Black Swan unit of the 225th Separate Assault Battalion. High-intensity fighting also continues in the area of Ivanivsky and Klishchiivka. In the latter, Russian troops have entrenched themselves in the central and southern part to a depth of up to 950 meters. Russians in their chats complain that the Ukrainian defense forces have noticeably increased the number of drones lately. This is not the first area where Russians are complaining about the increase in the number of drones. Avdiivka direction. The enemy has entrenched north of Ovcheretine on a section up to 800 meters wide and up to 550 meters deep. A high pace of combat operations continues in the area of Akhangelsky. Every day, the Russians try to advance in the area of Ovcheretine. Mostly, our fighters repel everything. Nevertheless, the constant pressure is having its effect, so the Russians have made some advances. Solovyovo village. The footage shows the result of another Russian assault. The result is burnt equipment and eliminated Russian infantry. But for Ukraine, holding back the pressure isn't easy either. About the same outskirts, between the village of Sovkil and Solovyovo. The video shows how a Bradley of the 47th Brigade comes under artillery fire, catches fire, and then it hit by several ATGMs. But even with this, the crew survived and was successfully evacuated by another Bradley vehicle, which also came under FPV fire during the evacuation. Further south on the map, in the same direction, a high pace of combat operations continue east of Novopokrovsky. In the area of Umansky, where the advance of the Russian army is recorded, and near Netailove, Avdiivka city. The footage shows strike drone operators of the strike drone company of the 47th Mechanized Brigade Magyura sharing an episode of the destruction of a Russian Gvozdika self-propelled gun in the area of the Avdiivka coke plant, the settlement of Pysky. It is not an S-400 air defense system, of course, but still a valuable unit. The destruction of a Russian OSA-SAM in the area of the settlement by strike drone operators of the key groups of the 59th Motorized Infantry Brigade. In the same direction, strike drone operators of the strike drone company of the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade Magyura together with the soldiers from the adjacent unit, destroyed another Russian T-90 Proryv tank. The T-90M Proryv is an advanced tank of the Russian army, but despite this, these tanks burn just like the older versions, and in large quantities. For example, here is a joint operation of strike drone operators from the 46th Separate Air Mobile Brigade and the 118th Separate Mechanized Brigade, destroying another tank of the same type. And recently, the TUR tank unit of the 225th Separate Assault Battalion captured such tank in good condition. The Russians abandoned the tank on the battlefield and fled. The operations to evacuate the vehicle took 4 months, involving many people and equipment, but the soldiers managed to retrieve the trophy. Kharkiv direction. Krasnohorivka city. The enemy resources release footage showing the demonstration of the Russian flag in the central part of the city. However, this holds little significance, as the area has been under enemy occupation for approximately 10 to 12 days now, with no notable changes. However, it cannot be said that the situation has been stabilized, as Russian forces continue their assaults along Nakhimova, Central, Syumska and railway streets, accumulating forces on the territory of the Krasnohorivka fireproof plant for subsequent attacks. No changes are observed on the map. Village of Georgiivka. Another Russian T-90M Proryv tank were destroyed in recent days on the outskirts of this village. Novomykhailivka. Strike drone operators of the Perun group of the 79th Separate Airborne Assault Brigade destroyed Russian infantry and equipment in the area of this village. As a result, Russian personnel, 16 injured, 2 eliminated. Tank, 1 unit destroyed. These are archival footage showing soldiers of the Ukrainian Defense Forces firing a javelin in the area of the same village. This footage confirms that the combat operations are currently taking place in approximately the same locations as half a year ago. Vuhledar direction. No enemy advances are recorded. Vuhledar city. The footage shows the annihilation of a Russian tank in the area of this town. Velikonovoselivka direction. In Staromayorsk, mobile enemy assault groups on motorcycles were spotted on Lina Kostenko Street. But rushing into the village at speed does not mean establishing control there. In Urozhaine and Staromayorsk, a high pace of combat operations continue. The situation remains unchanged. Tavria direction. Reports are coming in that Ukrainian mariners have shifted their foothold in Krinky towards Kozachyi Lagery village to consolidate new positions due to the impossibility of holding the old ones. In Krinky, everything is completely destroyed, and there are simply no positions to hold. Footage shows the Ukrainian flag on the water tower at the entrance to Kozachyi Lagery from the side of Krinky. This footage depicts the reduction of enemy infantry population in the same village by the fighters of the 35th Separate Mechanized Brigade. No changes are observed on the rest of the front lines. In recent days, the Russians have been launching missiles and bomb strikes on cities in Ukraine. Most notably, Kharkiv has been heavily affected. During the night, the occupiers attacked the railway infrastructure in the Kharkiv region. The trucks, buildings, non-functioning freight cars, and the electric train carriage were damaged. Additionally, during the night, the Russians launched a missile strike on Kharkiv with 4 S-300 air defense missiles. As a result of the strikes in the Slobitsky district of the city, a school was partially destroyed. Impacts also were recorded in the industrial zone and in open areas. Fortunately, there were no casualties that time. On May 25th, Russia carried out another brutal strike on our Kharkiv city, targeting a construction hypermarket. It is worth noting that the strike was deliberately carried out on a Saturday, in the middle of the day, when there would be the most people there. The Russians claim it was a storage facility where Ukraine stored weapons. Here is video from the inside this hypermarket, showing that it is just an ordinary building supply store. On the same day, the Russians also launched a missile strike on the center of Kharkiv. Photos show the result of the strike. They were just hitting randomly. In response, Ukraine is clearly working to reduce Russians' air defense capabilities. On the video, as claimed, the complete destruction of a Russian S-400 Triumph air defense system battery by ATACMS cluster munition. The Russians' air defense system was destroyed at a former airfield. It is located not far from Mospino village, southeast of the occupied Donetsk city. In the village of Hliboki, in the Krasnodar Krai, Russia, Ukrainian drones also damaged the antenna structures of the Voronezh DM early warning radar system near Amovir. This radar is part of Russians' missile attack warning system. Near this radar, in the same Krasnodar Krai of Russia, Ukrainian drones or missiles also attacked the military airfield in Khyvshevska. Satellite images clearly show several destroyed Russian aircrafts. In Saki, on the occupied Crimean Peninsula, a strike at the military airfield is also reported. The Saki Eupatoria Road is closed, so the show must go on. And that wraps up today's episode. If you found this information helpful or somehow insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!